other incident where she said you touched
What do
her.
we need from here then?
I'm just telling you how.
I know, but I'm saying I'm not going to keep going back and forth and playing this game. I mean...
Well, how it goes is...
I know, you
tell me how it goes then.
You turn into a DA and they see if they think to do it or not. That's right. That's right.
You've been through this before.
No, I got an uncle who's smart and I'm not an idiot.
Well, I'm sitting here saying that because you're saying what you just said.
That's fine. You don't lock me up.
You are now watching chapter 1 of the book of Julian. Now in this chapter, I'm going to give you a breakdown of what was going on back in 2020. You'll get a better understanding of mine and the alleged victim's relationship, along with her mother's. And we're going to take a look at what a report is and what a report is not. We're going to be looking at the police report, the CPS officer's report, and the forensic interviewer's report. So I want everybody to know what a report is and what a report is not. Then we're going to be talking about the forensic interview performed by the Dragonfly House. Now, to my knowledge, the Dragonfly House only deals with minors that have been physically or sexually abused. They offer a so-called forensic interview. Now, I don't know about you, but when I hear the word forensic, the first thing I think about is science. I'm going to prove to you in chapter 2 that there's nothing scientific going on here. Common sense tells you a interview is a interview. It don't matter how many cameras you have, how many people you have watching, how you ask the questions. When it comes down to it, a interview is a interview. There's no scientific method, period, that you can use in an interview. The simplest definition for the word forensic is any scientific method used to come to a conclusion. As you're going to see in chapter 2, there's nothing scientific about what's going on in this interview. So why then would they use the word forensic in front of interview? Well, that's easy. To manipulate the public and grand jury into thinking that there is a scientific method being used in these interviews when there's not. It's a complete joke. The only method I could find, period, was the forensic interviewer, and you'll see this, takes down notes as the alleged victim's describing her allegation, then she'll redirect the alleged victim back to her notes, read the notes back to the alleged victim, and the alleged victim's to tell the forensic interviewer if she has it right or wrong. Now, if that's the method, it's not a scientific method, and the alleged victim fails every redirect. A report is not a word-for-word account. It is a summary of the facts. Now, as a interviewer, you don't get to change those facts. You don't get to manipulate the report. You're supposed to be neutral. Your job description does not say damage control. You're not the alleged victim's lawyer. Your job is to be neutral, listen to the alleged victim, write the facts down, put them in the report, and submit it. That's all you're supposed to do as a interviewer. You don't get to take statements out, key statements, put your own in, and by doing that, you change what the alleged victim was really saying. I also think we can agree that even though a 13-year-old by law is considered a minor, by definition, they are a teenager. And I think we can also agree, even though a 13-year-old and let's say a 5-year-old are both considered minors, you wouldn't interview them the same. A 5-year-old is just then learning how to communicate back and forth in the most basic form of English. You're not going to get dates, times out of a 5-year-old. You're not going to get the sequences of how the alleged assault went down. But you will with a 13-year-old. A 13-year-old knows dates, times, months, years. They'll be able to tell you the sequences the alleged assault went down in. I want you to remember this point when you're watching chapter 2. And now let's talk about Captain Murphy. Now, Captain Murphy was a detective back in 2020. She was the lead detective on this case. All it takes to get indictments from a grand jury is probable cause. Any one of these lies I'm going to show you and prove to you that are lies would have been enough by themselves to get the indictments. And now I'm going to give you a taste of what's to come in chapter 2 and chapter 3. We're going to talk about my indictment dates. Now, when I first seen my indictment dates, after I done seen my discovery and watched the forensic interview, I knew something was up. My indictment dates were way off. I took it to my lawyer. My lawyer proceeded to tell me that in certain cases, mine being one, that the prosecutor or police got what you call leeway with the dates, which is understandable if the alleged victim is 5, 6, 7, or 8. But this alleged victim was 13, and I'm about to prove to you that the alleged victim on November 20th, 2020, the day this all started, gave him a time span. Then 20 days later, on December 10th, 2020, the alleged victim said that same time span 2 times. You're going to get to see 4 reports from November 20th, 2020 with a 2-week time span. Then we're going to fast forward to the 20th of December 2020, and I'm going to let you hear the alleged victim say it 2 times. Then I'm going to show you the indictment dates. Now, this isn't leeway. This is manipulation. I'm going to give them some leeway. Now, my second indictment date is November 20th, 2020, the day the police were called. The alleged victim claims something happened the night before, which would be the night of November 19th, 2020. Then she alleges something happened 2 weeks before that. Let's take a look at the reports now. All right, in Chapter 2, you're going to get to see these reports in their entirety. For right now, I want to stay on course and just go over the time span. I'm going to read. 2 weeks ago, then last night would have been November 19th. Last night would have been November 19th, 2020. Next report. How long has this been going on? Twice. Once 2 weeks ago and once last night. Next report. Approximately when did the incident occur? 2 weeks ago and last night. Last report, and if you notice it says screening tool notes. This report is what the forensic interviewer uses before she interviews the alleged victim. Now we're going to skip around a little bit. It says she went to visit her mom about 2 weeks ago. Fast forward, this happened again last night. Again, last night would have been November 19th, 2020. Now we're going to fast forward 20 days so you can hear the alleged victim say it for herself.
But even before, the project, 2 weeks ago before this, the first time that you talked about when you were sleeping, and Jerry had touched you, when was that? It was 2 weeks. Yeah, it was 2 weeks.
So now you know the alleged victim claims something happened the night of November 19th and something happened 2 weeks before that. Now my indictment date, the second one, is November 20th. Okay? 2 weeks from the 20th. That's 14 days. That would bring you to the 6th. If you need leeway, November 1st, I think we can all agree, is the perfect leeway date. You max it all the way out to November 1st. Captain Murphy even says this allegation happened in November in my interrogation video when she says this.
November-ish.
Now we're going to take a look at the indictments. As you can see, it says the 20th day of November, the day the police were called. Now, we just said November 1st would have been the perfect leeway date, but Captain Murphy, or the prosecutor, or both, decided to go all the way back to October 1st, 2020. A 50-day span now. Now, I can't help all the alleged victim's claims in her forensic interview made it where her 2-week time span didn't sound plausible. That's not my fault. Did you ever think maybe she was lying? No, instead, you all decided to manipulate that grand jury into thinking that there was a 7-week time span in between those allegations. When everyone out there watching knows that 13-year-old teenager alleged it was only a 2-week time span. Now, of course, the alleged victim never gave an exact date for this first allegation, but that don't mean you get to make up one. You got a date to anchor it off of, November 19th, 2020. We did the math, added the leeway, and it didn't come nowhere near October 1st. Which now, it sounds more like how these assaults in cases like mine actually go down, over a prolonged period of time. Now I want to talk about mine and the alleged victim's relationship, along with her father's. I've been with the alleged victim's mother since the alleged victim was 4.5, 5, and her brother was 7. Growing up, we never had the best relationship due to the fact that they didn't like to follow rules, didn't think they had to listen. And it didn't help that their grandmother and father would tell them before we picked them up that I wasn't their daddy, they didn't have to listen to me, they could do whatever they wanted. Now anybody that knows me knows I don't play that shit. If you are a kid and you are at my house, you will listen. If you are laying on the couch playing on your phone and I tell you to get up and help your mother with the groceries, that don't mean point your finger and tell me to hold on and shoo me away. That means you get your ass up and you go help your mother. If you do not want to follow my rules, I will take you back to where I picked you up at. And that happened multiple times, which put more of a strain on our relationship. Me and the alleged victim's father, we've never got along. I can't respect a man who's never been on his own. The only time he's ever moved out was when he was a teenager and he moved in with my fiance when they had the kids. I can't respect a man who's always lived with his mother, who's never kept a job, never had to balance money, never had to pay a deposit, never had to take care of himself one day. The only thing this man cares about is smoking crack, doing Xanaxes, and whatever else drugs he does in that back room. That's his house, the back room, and that's where he stays. Which brings me to early 2020 now. The alleged victim had been warned a handful of times that she didn't quit sneaking out, smart-mouthing her daddy, and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. She was going to be sent out to our house. They called it Boot Camp Jerry's. She didn't want to come out here. She knew she had to follow rules and listen. Now, we live in the country, on a dead-end road. One way in, one way out. We're surrounded by forest and cornfields. Ain't no sneaking out. Ain't no access to boys around here. She had to listen, and she had to follow rules, which she hated. Now, you would thought she would have listened, but she didn't. The last straw was one evening when her father was coming home. He turned on their road, and he seen the alleged victim. She seen him at the same time, ran up to his car, told him there was a Mexican in a white car that was going back and forth in front of the house and stopping sometimes and looking. And she freaked out. Took off running up to the end of the road to look for help, and her daddy just happened to be there and save her. Now, of course, that idiot bought it, called his mother, and she called the police. Now, as the police were interviewing the alleged victim, her grandmother called her in a lie, pressed her, and she finally told the truth. That everything she had just said was a complete lie. That the truth was that she had snuck up to the end of the road to meet a boy, and her daddy pulled up. Now I want you to think about this. If she wouldn't have been caught in that lie, there would have been a poor Latino man driving around in a car that matched that description. It was fixing to be rolled up on and harassed and most likely going to jail. All because of a 13-year-old teenager that couldn't tell the truth. And let's talk about this gash in the back of my head now. I'm not going to go over how it happened. I'm going to talk about what happened afterwards. Now, it took every bit of 30 to 40 minutes before I even was taken to Thomasville Hospital. I basically had to watch the guards draw straws to see who was going to take me. Now, when we get there, you got to remember, I'm in that orange jumpsuit, and my bond's $100,000, so I'm shackled from head to toe. We get in front of the desk. I see the jailer pass the lady paperwork. It's got my picture, my name on it, and my charges. Now, I bring this up because that same lady had to take blood from me. Now, about 8 years ago, I had an injury on my elbow, my right arm, right in the crease. Then it got infected. The doctors had to cut it open. They went across that big vein on the right, in your arm, the biggest vein. Now, ever since, that vein, that right there has been touchy, and it's hard. I told that lady the same thing. I showed her my left arm and told her, there was veins in my left arm she could go in. Where do you think she went? Straight to that vein, and not only did she go to that vein, she went right to where it was cut open, right where the scar was. And out of all days, that day was the day she was going to practice using the catheter needles. Now, these needles ain't new. They've been out over a decade. For those of you who don't know what they are, they're needles with basically a catheter over them or a tube. They're for people that's going to have operations and people that's going to have an IV over a prolonged period of time. Not like me. She's just taking blood. Now, you stick them in, pull the needle out, the tube stays in, you can tape it to your arm, and then it's a lot safer. But again, I wasn't in there for an operation. Now, as you can see, there's 2 knots on my arm, and you see where that cut is. She went right there at it. She missed both of them and ended up having to go on my left arm anyway. So now I got 2 of them, not only the pain I had to go through, I got 2 knots on my arm forever. And it didn't get no better. After x-rays, me and the jailer was taken to a room, and we waited. Then in comes a man nurse. Now, this man nurse came in. My back's against the wall. I'm sitting with shackles on. He asked me some questions. Told me to follow his finger, and then he told me the x-rays looked good, that he would get my paperwork and get us out of there. Now, when he walked out, the jailer looked at me dumbfounded, and his exact words were, "Is he even going to check the gash back? Is he even going to check out the gash in your head?" Now, evidently somebody told him out there, because he came back in with a tub with a damp paper towel and some gauze and a staple gun. Now, it had been easily over 2 hours since my incident. My head was throbbing. It was on fire back there. I didn't get no ibuprofen. No shot to numb it. No nothing. This man took that damp paper towel, started scraping out the blood out of the cut. Not anywhere else, just the cut, and started stapling right behind it. Now, there was 4 staples in my head. You see 3. The 4th one fell out on the way home. That 4th one put me on my knees. And I was in the chair. When he hit me with that 4th one, it felt like somebody was shanking me in my head. I slipped out of the chair and went on my knees. I can take pain. I've been through a lot. But that was up there with the top of the pain I've had to go through. And as you can see in this picture, he didn't even have the respect to wipe the other dry blood off my head or even put anything on it. He didn't know I was getting bailed out. He thought I was going back to the cell. I didn't know I was getting bailed out. I got lucky in that my fiance had been there and bailed me out. She thought I was coming out of jail because, they can't tell her I'm in the hospital. But this is how they treat you. This is what they do to people that come from the jail, people they don't like. And now this is the end of Chapter 1. Now in Chapter 2, we're going to be taking a look at the forensic interview. We're going to be looking at clips from the forensic interview, comparing them to what the forensic interviewer chose to write in her report. Now, due to there being so many lies and so much misconduct in the forensic interviewer's report, I had to break Chapter 2 down into 3 episodes. Now in Chapter 3, Captain Murphy's up to bat. We'll do the same thing. We'll be taking a look at clips from my interrogation video, comparing it with what Captain Murphy decided to write in her police report. So without further ado, please go to Chapter 2 and push start.